Polk County is adding residents faster than almost any other county in the United States. New housing foundations are being poured across thousands of acres as the region expands to accommodate this demand. That population influx is funneling directly into Davenport, where developers are actively constructing over 17,500 new residential units to catch up with current buyer volume. This concentrated demand puts immediate financial pressure on buyers. The median home price in the city has now reached $385,000. This chart shows exactly how fast that price is moving. Over a single 30-day period, the median price increased by 2.5%. And buyers aren't hesitating. Homes here stay on the market for an average of just 18 days before going under contract. But that sticker price is only part of the math. You also have to calculate the long-term carrying costs, like property taxes, Florida-specific insurance premiums, and HOA fees. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, an organization that collects monthly or quarterly dues to maintain common areas and enforce community rules. Success in a market moving this fast requires absolute precision. If you don't have your financing sorted out before you start looking, that window of affordability often closes before you can even make an offer. The Davenport housing market is defined by a sharp geographic and cultural divide that creates two entirely different buying environments. One sector is the global vacation and STR market clustered tightly around the Disney corridor. STR stands for short-term rental, describing properties leased out for a few days or weeks at a time to tourists, rather than to full-time residents. The other sector consists of quiet, traditional residential subdivisions built specifically for full-time families and local commuters. Mixing up these zones has consequences. Families looking for quiet streets can end up in high-turnover resort zones with transient neighbors, while investors can accidentally buy into neighborhoods with strict rules that ban rentals entirely. Identifying the exact Davenport micromarket that fits your specific goals is the most critical decision a buyer will make in this region. For relocating families wanting a traditional suburban rhythm, communities like Providence and Highlands Reserve restrict short-term rentals to maintain a permanent resident base. These zones offer significant architectural benefits. Buyers access larger lot sizes, premium new construction, and prominent features like tile roofs and paver driveways. Inside, these builds prioritize scale for daily living. You get wide open floor plans, high ceilings, and designated spaces that full-time families actually use. This chart compares Davenport's safety metrics against the rest of the country. FBI data shows Davenport is statistically safer than 71% of U.S. cities. When you isolate violent crime, the rate drops to just 1 in 1,000 residents, well below the national median. To support the influx of families, Polk County Public Schools recently improved to a B rating, and new facilities like the Bellalago Elementary School are actively opening to handle the capacity. Buyers here also have the advantage of seeking out zero CDD communities. CDD stands for Community Development District, a special tax assessment used by developers to finance local infrastructure like roads and water lines. Avoiding it keeps your monthly carrying costs lower.
These neighborhoods provide high safety metrics, good schools, and more square footage for your money. However, you trade immediate urban walkability for a suburban layout where a car is required for nearly every errand. Investors looking for yield focus on the master-planned short-term rental zones like Champions Gate and Salterra. These communities are built to attract global tourists. They feature massive clubhouses, built-in water parks with lazy rivers, and sit just minutes from the Disney corridor. The constant flow of vacationers creates the potential for high rental yields. Owners can generate significant revenue during peak holiday and summer seasons. This stacked bar chart shows the exact financial trade-off. To maintain those resort amenities, an STR property requires a significantly higher monthly carrying cost, stacking a heavy HOA, a CDD, and taxes on top of your base mortgage. If you choose to actually live in these zones, you have to accept the daily reality of a vacation atmosphere. Your neighbors change every few days, and the streets fill with heavy seasonal traffic. These zones offer revenue potential for investors, provided the math accounts for the heavy operational costs and the perpetual high-energy environment. Regardless of which zone you choose, adding 17,500 new homes forces massive infrastructure overhauls across the entire city. The region is executing large-scale transportation upgrades, including the widening of Ernie Caldwell Boulevard and a multi-million-dollar expansion to the I-4 interchange. Retail space is expanding rapidly to service the new population, anchored by a 100-acre commercial addition coming to the Posner Park Shopping Center. Essential civic utilities are also being upgraded behind the scenes, like the new wastewater treatment plant that came online in May 2024. For anyone buying right now, the reality involves active construction zones, massive heavy machinery, and constantly shifting traffic patterns. You have to endure the friction of a work-in-progress city today, but absorbing that inconvenience is how you secure a property before the fully matured infrastructure drives prices up even further. This flowchart breaks down the decision. In a market moving this fast, you have to lock in your specific priorities before you start touring homes. But every path starts at the same gateway. You must have a hard financing pre-approval in hand before you look at a single listing, or you will likely lose out to a buyer who does. If you are a relocating family, follow the path to established residential zones like Sunridge Woods or Providence. You secure long-term stability and access to stronger school districts. If you are an investor, target the resort communities like Champions Gates or Windsor Island, but only after running a strict ROI calculation that factors in the heavy HOA load. ROI stands for return on investment, the metric used to evaluate the profitability of an asset relative to its overall cost. And if you are a budget-conscious buyer, focus on the newer, zero CDD builds to keep tight control over your monthly carrying costs. Davenport rewards buyers who plan ahead. By securing your position during this expansion, you lock in your cost basis long before the results of this current development cycle are fully reflected in the market price.